Illinois faces some big challenges. Today, you're about to hear a truly honest analysis of the problems we face. Equally important, you'll also hear an in-depth discussion of some practical solutions. This is your radio source for stories, the insight, and the answers you won't hear anywhere else, not in the media, and not coming from Springfield. You're listening to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project. Now, here's your host, AM 560's Dan Proft.
Welcome to another edition of Illinois Rising. Dan Proft, co-host of Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560 with Amy Jacobson, Monday to Friday, 5 to 9 a.m. And joining me is the president of Wirepoints.com. He is Ted Dabrowski. And Ted, 1,245-page budget bill flew through the Senate and the House this week. It's great news, bipartisan support, and we have what is being described as a balanced budget. Of course, every budget in Illinois is described as a balanced budget by the politicians. We haven't had a real balanced budget since 2001, I believe. But the bipartisanship is being celebrated. Republicans, Democrats coming together and agreeing to spend $1 billion plus more than they spent last year. Is this a sign of progress for the state?
I think for the political elite, it's a perfect sign of progress, right? They're all getting along, just like Governor Edgar has said he wants. There are no fights, no impasse, no real debate over reforms. And so maybe that's what it is, right? Everybody's lined up just to do the same exact thing we've been doing forever. So sad thing is for Illinoisans, it's not good for them. And you've got a budget with no reforms, nothing that's going to change the trajectory we're in, which is downhill. And don't be surprised we're going to have the exact mess and more.
Yeah, it's always been my experience in Illinois politics that when you've got both sides coming together with virtual unanimity, that's when you should be truly afraid because another bank heist is afoot. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by State Representative Alan Skillicorn, Republican from East Dundee. Alan, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to be on with you guys.
So what about the budget and the celebrated bipartisanship nature of the support for the budget? Everybody gets home in time to enjoy the summer. Your tour of duty is over, and great things are in the offing for Illinois.
So I was never sent to Springfield just to capitulate to the special interests and leadership that don't want to do anything. And that's exactly what happened here. When you have both sides agree to pass a non-balanced budget, and everybody knows this is non-balanced. I mean, they took the numbers from CONCFA and Gombe, and they just tacked on hundreds of millions of dollars more to that, and they went ahead and spend money we don't have. They took money out of the road fund for Obama Library. I mean, come on. This is silly. This is the weakest. The Obama Library. They took $172 million.
The library that isn't a library. Yeah,
exactly. That's supposed to be privately funded. This is ridiculous. This is the weakest the Republican Party's been in my lifetime.
Alan, what do you think it should have been like in Springfield the last 3 months? If it's not quiet, I mean, could we really expect a kumbaya type environment and still get reforms, or what should it be like?
Well, I mean, there has to be crisis to get anything done, because if these guys don't think there's a problem, they're just going to go along and do what they did before. I mean, this is just like in the 90s when we got the remortgaging of our pensions called the pension wrap. It's the same thing. They've been basically colluding together, seeing what they could push through, not to raise a red flag. Well, that's not how democracy works. We're supposed to be able to see the budgets. We're supposed to see the numbers. We're supposed to, argue our points. We're supposed to zealously represent our constituents. No one's sticking up for taxpayers, and that's just silly. And that's not the reason why I'm here. And you know what? That's why our party is going to experience significant losses in November, because there's no leadership.
Well, it's interesting you point that out, because just doing a quick thought back, quick reflection on the last year of the Republican Party's performance. So let's see. In July of last year, we had 15 of 51 House Republicans surrender on taxes and vote for the largest structural tax increase in Illinois history. And then this session, we had 8 of 22 Senate Republicans vote for the pro-abortion ERA. Then we had 7 of 51 House Republicans vote for the anti-gun rights gun licensing bill led by House Republican leader Jim Durkin. Then we had 10 House Republicans vote for the pro-abortion ERA led by ostensibly pro-life House Republican leader Jim Durkin. And then what you've just described on spending in the budget. So in the last 12 months, the Republican Party has capitulated on taxes, on life, on guns, and on spending. Is that what is now termed unity for Republicans in the state?
Exactly, that and more. If you're a rank and file member of the Republican Party, if you're someone out there that likes to volunteer for candidates, what's your incentive for getting involved this fall? We've given up. We're gone ahead and did taxpayer funding abortions. We've given up on trying to, reverse the tax hike. We've given up on spending. I mean, there were actually reforms, or not reforms, but there were bad bills that were pushed through by special interests that literally are going to put some of these gig economy new upstarts out of business, so we can protect the legacy players. I'm sorry, but that's not why I'm a member of the Republican Party. I stand for something, and to just capitulate is not something I would be proud of.
Hey, Alan, for me, this isn't necessarily a Republican-Democrat issue. It's both sides have failed. It doesn't matter what groups go there, and of course, there's some warriors, some champions, some fighters. But in the end, what is it going to take, right? So here we are. We're almost junk rated. We have deficits all the time. People are leaving. Our population is shrinking. All those negative things. If things are so bad, where's the accountability mechanism, and why isn't it working, or what is it going to take to make it work?
So what made people start to seriously talk about the budget and some things was last summer when Moody's and Finch and those guys said they were going to downgrade us again. And I think that's what's going to motivate people again. So for whatever reason, both parties, rank and file Republicans, Democrats that are elected, they are missing the pension debt. I mean, they're just not looking at it, I guess. I don't know. They're not looking at the backlog of bills. So we have, currently have an over $6 billion backlog of bills. We borrowed another $6 billion just a few months ago. So think of that more as 12. We're adding to that. I mean, the structural backlog of bills grew the last couple months and is going to grow another $1 billion over the next 12 months. It's not going to be paid down. Our pension deficits are getting bigger. Some of these reforms are phony. So effectively, we're shorting pensions by hundreds of millions of dollars every year. That's going to bite us in the butt. And until the rating agencies, until the bond houses say no more, I think they're just going to go on and continue with this. And it's almost like the major players in both political parties, they don't get it. They don't see it, or frankly, they don't care.
Your colleague, who's lame duck, David Harris, a Republican, in quotation marks, from Arlington Heights, not running for re-election, he said this week that Illinois is on the right track when it comes to attracting businesses, despite what people are hearing regarding residents leaving the state, businesses passing over the state, fleeing themselves. How do you react to that? How is Illinois on the right track when it comes to attracting businesses? What's the argument?
Well, I mean, I'll agree with him on that statement, and I'll give him a little. Well, I would disagree with him on that statement. I'll give him a little bit of credit because there was a bill that came through that would effectively kill an upstart company, and he voted against it. He spoke on the floor against it. But look at what he said about attracting businesses and companies. We do a woeful job at that. And if you look at the numbers, so every state you have people moving from and coming to. Illinois' big deal is that we have high numbers of people leaving and very low numbers of people coming to Illinois. So, even our surrounding states, there are people who move from Indiana and go someplace else. But there's a lot of people moving into Indiana, and that's because there's jobs and opportunity. And Illinois is the reverse.
And stopping more bad is not the same thing as making Illinois attractive because it's not presently attractive. So if you made it worse, it would just become more unattractive, but it doesn't make it any less unattractive than it is in real time.
Yeah, and I mean, we're creating. I mean, now this is partisan. This is, the Democrat majority is really pushing through things like making the Attorney General's office more powerful so they can sue companies. They're creating a situation where there's a framework where people who have just minor annoying claims can sue and wrap up millions and millions of dollars in legal fees against companies. Things like that are not very appealing to businesses that want to move to Illinois. Or think about this. So there's plenty of us that would mind starting a business here. We live here, our roots are here, and we have ideas about doing startups. And when we make the regulatory environment such that it's very expensive and risky, well, each person has to pay themselves for their time, so they're not going to start new businesses. So so we don't have businesses coming in, but we don't have entrepreneurs being unleashed. And every other state acknowledges that and fosters that. But here in Illinois, unfortunately, the entrenched powers want more power, and that means taking it from the people.
Just trying to glean an insight from what the prevailing thinking is in the House Republican caucus. You mentioned that because of the willingness to put in the fight for the things that the Republican Party ostensibly stands for when it comes to the range of issues, that you're looking at not a very good election cycle, not a very good November. And I wonder what the thinking is here, too, is the kind of the surrender across the board on issue after issue to just get home. I mean, the Republicans who are in jeopardy in terms of maintaining their seats, what is it exactly they're thinking? They're thinking if capitulation is the path to survival?
Well, too many politicians have ideological flexibility and moral flexibility. So when they come to a place like Springfield and they have special interests come to them and say, oh, you need to fund this. Oh, you need to, do this. There's really good reasons why they do that. And they're not listening to their neighbors. They're not listening to the people who live in their districts. They get caught up in making these really bad decisions. And so some of them think, oh, we'll just make this one compromise here. But they make it over and over again. And as we've learned, that people don't want that. They want leaders. They don't want capitulators. And that's unfortunate what we got. And and it's not just a symptom here in the State House. I mean, the vast majority of elected officials in both parties are weak and do not have a backbone. And that's why special interests, that's why labor unions, that's why entrenched businesses, they get special deals. And it leaves the rest of us, the working families, the seniors, the people out there actually working hard, paying their taxes, raising families, it hurts them.
He is State Representative Alan Skillicorn, Republican from East Dundee. Alan, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.